The artist's creativity in the age of AI. Which perspectives and which protection? In a conference dealing with the theme of creativity, one cannot miss today a reflection on the so-called artificial intelligence (AI) systems, their definition and how they impact on human creativity, starting from the very concept of creativity to the instrument for its protection. The expression artificial intelligence was coined in 1956 by one of the fathers of computational research, John McCarthy. But was this really an insight, or did this term somehow mislead research into the true nature of the phenomenon? Maybe defining machine capabilities as intelligent and artificial and contrasting them with natural human capabilities has given a misleading analysis of the phenomenon. On the one hand, it dehumanizes human identity, failing to recognize its specificity. On the other, it wrongs AI itself, perceived not only as a useful tool but also as a threat. Perhaps it would be more effective to give machine learning systems their own identity, without trying to imitate or compare the machine to the human being. The rush to anthropomorphize AI seems, with no offense to anyone, a clumsy attempt because, as Nobel Prize winner for physics Professor Giorgio Parisi said at the Treccani Institute in Rome, it is difficult to think of a disembodied human brain. If we want to have an artificial human brain, we must have a brain that also has a body, because the brain has a body behind it. It has a certain kind of knowledge of the real world that comes to it, not in an abstract way, but comes to it from the body. But let's take a step back to understand what creative content is and how it is protected. The Italian legal system, like most modern legal systems, protect contents, works, created in a certain areas only as original and creative, and the expression of ingenuity, human ingenuity, and of intellectual work, human intellectual work. Doctrine and case law tie the concept of originality and creativity almost without distinction between the two. For example, a well-established orientation of the European Court of Justice considers original a work that is the result of the author's intellectual creation, adding, moreover, that an intellectual creation belongs to its author if it reflects the latter's personality. The Italian Court of Cassation recently introduced an innovative principle of law regarding creativity and the use of AI. In case this use has been preponderant in the creation of the content, making the human contribution negligible, copyright cannot be recognized. If, on the other hand, the artist has been able to direct, instruct, correct, and consciously use AI, this activity is considered an integral part of the work, since it is in any case the expression of an artistic concept, a thought, and a subjective and personal way of expressing an idea, all elements worthy of legal protection. This first pronouncement of the Court of Cassation represents an important step in the evolution of copyright protection for works created through AI in Italy, places the assessment of the creativity rate at the center of the protection, and underlines the importance of considering the human role in the creative process of content created with the help of AI systems. So, what does artist's creative process consist of? When can the results of the artist's activity be considered a work of art? Pablo Picasso described his own creative process as a series of distractions and reconstructions, a transformative process tending to bring out the artist's emotions and lead to a series of undefined discoveries for him. The painter paints out of a need to free himself from sensation and visions. Others take possession of them to cover a little of their nakedness. Marcel Duchamp, on the other hand, saw it as a subjective and partly unconscious process. During the creative act, the artist proceeds from intention to realization through a chain of totally subjective reactions. The struggle towards realization is composed of a series of efforts, of pains, of satisfaction, of rejections, of decisions that cannot and must not be fully conscious, at least on an aesthetic level. For Massimo Fagioli, the artist would be such if were able not so much to offer us a series of photographs of things, but of inner images, to the point of finding that formula which here in our research appeared in particular on May 12, 1995 in Naples. Images, yes unconscious, but not dreamlike, not oniric. In particular, Professor Massimo Fagioli's theoretical masterpiece gives us the opportunity to investigate why the human being, unlike the machine, is by its psychological nature spontaneously capable of making art. In the moment of birth, with the formation of non-conscious thoughts, which he theorized, the prerequisites are created for the development of creativity, which need a subsequent maturation of the ego to emerge. The psychiatrist Gianfranco De Simone said on the occasion of the conference of 40th anniversary of collective analysis at the Aula Magna of La Sapienza University, held in 2015 in Rome, for Massimo Fagioli, the child recognizes in his face something that lies within himself. For what he realized inside himself at birth as an inner image, the child recognizes the image of his face in the mirror. Therefore, the child's creative act in mentally drawing his own face recognizes himself in the mirror, having never seen himself before, consists in making the perceived reality around him disappear without destroying, annulling, but transforming it into an inner image by grasping its latent meaning through the ability to imagine the line, also a prerogative of the human being, as Massimo Fagioli theorized for the first time during the Palau Conference in 1999. For more one of the concept of creativity according to Massimo Fagioli's theorization, we refer to the recent and interesting paper presented in Rome at the conference organized for the 50th year since the publication of 15 year of the publication of That Instinct and Knowledge, entitled Creativity, Ideation and the Relationship with History, produced by Corrado Landi, Giancarlo Leonelli and Fiammetta Nante. Indeed, we love to steal the poetic words of Massimo Fagioli himself, who, in the article in the weekly Left collected in the Asino d'Oro essay Left 2013, published in 2016, gives us an image of the artist's creative process and its underlying dynamic, the fantasy of the disappearance, or disappearance fantasy. The disappearance fantasy, which has in itself disappeared in the reality, the driven pulsion and the capability to react that becomes vitality, strips words for the grab of arid signs that indicate things. It leaves them naked to express their sensitivity and the song that the like should feel when it no longer has any relationship with material reality. And it is a sensitivity that is related to the five senses, just as the non-material reality of thought is related to the body. The dynamic, then, is the same as in human birth, in which, along with the false thought, idea, realization of the biological reality, the world does not exist. There is the creation of the reality of the memory fantasy of the experienced head. Returning to the exploitation of the phenomenon of the application of AI system in the field of art, artists and engineers have been collaborating for some time now, using algorithms and calculations to create innovative works or to explore new forms of artistic expression. To cite a few examples, Memo Acten, an artist who has been working with artificial intelligence, big data, and our collective consciousness spread for the internet, reflects on the human condition, drawing connections between intelligence in nature, intelligence in machine, perception, consciousness, neuroscience, fundamental physics, ritual, and religions. He writes codes and uses algorithms and data-driven designs and aesthetic to create moving images, sound, large-scale reactive installation, and performances. Mike Tika, a multidisciplinary artist and scientist who also works with artificial neural networks as an artistic medium and tool, among other things, created some of the first large-scale artworks using Google's interactive deep-dream neural network in 2015. In particular, he trained IDD with thousands of photographs of faces of real people taken from the Flickr platform and programmed it to learn from his mistakes and create increasingly truthful portraits of imaginary people, resulting in the serial work Portraits of Imaginary People. We apologize if the space available obliges us not to dwell further on the many possible and interesting examples. We would nevertheless like to recall the 7x7 program carried out since 2010 by the US Association Rhizome and the New Museum in New York. 7 artists are paired with 7 luminaries of technology and science and are invited to collaborate for a date with a single objective, to create something new. The 2024 edition focused entirely on the potential of artificial intelligence with the intention of identifying how it could play a neuralgic role in the way we perceive society, politics, relationship, and even humor. The results are fascinating. From the example cited, however, it emerges that AA remains a tool in the hands of the artist. The artist can use AA to expand his or her creative possibilities, but it is still the human being who devises and controls the artistic process. However, the pitfalls of AI do not only lie in the creation process of content created with the help of AI tools, but also in the impact that content self-generated by AI systems can have in aesthetic, cultural, and social terms, to name but a few. ChatGPT for written text, DALL-E for images, Musical.ly for audio tracks, Gem1 for videos, are only the best known and most striking examples of generative AI tools available to the general public that are capable of profoundly affecting the content creation system and thus the market for its exploitation. The autonomous production of artistic content by AI raises questions about the authorship, originality, and degree of creativity of the generated outputs, as well as, just to mention a few issues, need of transparency in the data input acquisition and in the output communication, respect of copyright of the authors of the input data, as well as of their faculty to forbid such input. The subject matter is complex, and certainly this is not the place to address it, and even less to provide answers. Also, in light of the fact that there is still no uniformity of approach in the various state systems. We limit ourselves here to recalling that at the international level, there are various initiatives that attempt to regulate AI and offer a uniform approach. For instance, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development has adopted the Guidelines on Artificial Intelligence, which provide recommendations for the responsible use of AI. In addition, the UN has established a working group on AI, which aims to promote international cooperation on AI and to address ethical and legal issues relating to the use of AI. But the disruptive news of the moment is undoubtedly the entry into force, August 2024, after a long gestation, the first proposal for discussion dates back to 2021, of the European Regulation on Artificial Intelligence, AI Act number 1369/2024, a self-executive measure directly enforceable in the member states without the need for transposition. The AA Act is a measure of historic significance because it represents the first structured legislation of harmonized rule on artificial intelligence and has two main objectives: to prevent potential risks arising from the use of AI system and at the same time to encourage the further development of AI-based technology in the European Union by avoiding excessive restriction. The expressly stated favor is for an anthropocentric approach to protection and the respect and protection of the fundamental human rights, which includes intellectual property rights. AA Act provides for a classification of AI systems according to their level of risk: unacceptable, high, low, or minimal, and specific rules for each of the risk categories identified. The IA Act does not directly address the concept of originality and creativity, a missed opportunity to clarify and harmonize the system on this point. At a national level, however, in Italy, the reflection of the concept of creativity was addressed with the April 23, 2024 bill, DDL, a bill for the introduction of provisions and the delegation to the government on the subject of artificial intelligence, whose approval in Parliament is still in progress. The interesting thing is to note is that the bill proposes to modify the Article 1 of the LDA, introducing the possibility of including in the works of human intelligence also the works created with the aid of artificial intelligence tools, provided that the human contribution is creative, relevant, and demonstrable. We are faced with a reaffirmation of the anthropocentric vision by virtue of which only the work that reflects the subjectivity, creativity, and ingenuity of the author natural person is worthy of protection. Therefore, the qualification of the human contribution in the process of creating the digital work becomes fundamental. Should the bill be confirmed, it is essential to fill with meaning those general clauses which make it difficult with a view to transposing the law into the individual case to identify the quantum of human contribution which make digital creation protectable by author's law. In this sense, Massimo Fagioli's reflection on the human specificities of the creative process could certainly help to clarify and provide tools for analyzing protected contents, also for the purposes of their human traceability or not and their consequent protection. In conclusion, AI can be a powerful tool to assist and amplify artists in the creation of their content, but its intrinsic limitations suggest that the production of universally innovative content still remains an exclusively human prerogative. It's one thing to generate images with the help of AI, and another thing to make art with AI. arguing otherwise risk reiterating the historical denial of the artist's identity by cancelling the fact that it is non-dreamlike unconscious thoughts that moves human imagination and not reason. Thanks for listening.